Alrighty then, it's Thursday and it's time for, it's time for fun and frivolity, education, information, and entertainment in the firearms world. It's time for Student of the Gun Radio. But you already knew that, right? Because that's why you're here. I am your host, Professor Paul Markle. I'm sitting inside of the glass case of emotion. And you say, but Paul, where is the glass case of emotion? Well, it's located within the Silencer Shop Studios and
silencershop.com, the easiest way to buy silencers online, period.
Period, full stop, end of story. And guess what? We've been promising, I know we've been teasing you, we've been promising, but we have a representative from silencershop.com on the line. He's hanging out on the line. He's actually listening to me right now, but he can't talk because his microphone's turned down. No, welcome to the last episode of the week. This is the last public episode of the week, and of course tomorrow we will have the grad program. And the grad program bonus hour airs every Friday. And a lot of you folks out there have asked us, because we have many, as I do my Police Academy impression, many new listeners. And we've gotten emails and messages like, well, I don't understand this grad program thing. Is that just a radio show where Paul swears and says bad words? Is that what that is? Well, kind of, but not all. Jared, you've been kind of quiet over there. Tell them, if they're a grad program member, what do they get besides to hear me say bad words?
Well, I am Jared Markle, the digital mastermind of Student Gun Radio. And if you are a new listener with us, welcome. We will coddle you for a few minutes.
About 5 minutes.
Yeah, about 5 minutes. And then we will dive directly into it. But what do you get as a grad program member? You get access to celebrity interviews. You get the Tactical Tutor newsletter every month. You get the grad program bonus hour of radio every single week. Access to a private group is full of awesome people.
And a private email address to email us directly. Also, it's the all access. That's something that Jared worked very. Yeah, how could you forget? You spent like 2 months working on it. What Jared did is he redid the site so that now you guys know, if you're listening to us on iTunes or Stitcher or Podcast Gallery or whatever hoobadoop you're listening, that it only gives you the last 50 episodes, and then they drop off day by day by day. But grad program listeners have an all access. They have access. You can go all the way back to episode 1 if you're feeling froggy and listen. Same thing with Tactical Tutors. Is that correct, Jared? Yep. Once they get in, you can read all the way back to Tactical Tutor number 1.
We've been doing this for 16 months now.
Yes, we have been doing this for 16 months.
There are 16 Tactical Tutors now.
Yes. And they also, the grad program people, because they have an investment in the show, you get, they said in the little, the blurb, it says exclusive offers. Well, what is exclusive offers? Well, if we have 100 Wrong Like Dick Cancer stickers, or if we have 100 Sweet Boot on a Rubber Raft patches, or 100 books, or 100 whatever, you get first dibs. Now, there are obviously, well, maybe not obvious to you, but I'm going to tell you there are way more than 100 people in the grad program, and there are way more than 100 people listening right now. So if you want to be a part of that, and what else would we give away? We've given away guns and holsters
away a lot of
and
stuff.
Ammunition.
We work with some of our sponsors to offer
SWAT
discount
fuel
codes as well.
and triggers and all kinds of stuff. So long story short, that's it. You wanted an explanation.
Yeah.
You wanted to know what the grad program was all about. Now you know. So congratulations, and you can move on with your life. All right, before we get to our special guest, let's go ahead and pay some bills and thank our friends at Duracoat, because life is too short to have an ugly gun. LauerWeaponry.com, or you can just pop over to Brownells.com and you can order all the Duracoat stuff you want. And we're still waiting. We're waiting very anxiously to see the first pictures of the Student of the Gun tattoos from Duracoat.
Yes.
Frog Lube, it just works. Try the new Frog Lube Extreme. There you go.
You just scared Jeremy.
Yeah. Velocity Triggers. If you got a black rifle, they have a trigger for you. Check them out at velocitytriggers.com. And lastly but not leastly, no, not even lastly, SWAT Fuel at SWAT Fuel Store. Go to SWATfuelstore.com. Use the promo code PREPARED until the end of February, and it is still February as you're listening to this, so use the code PREPARED, and you'll be good to go. And also, Century Arms, the sweetest smelling arms maker in America.
Yeah. We wanted to knock those all out because once we get started with today's topic, we're just going to go.
Mm-hmm. We's just going to go. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and unmute his microphone and welcome Jeremy Millette, social media manager of silencershop.com. Jeremy, thanks for joining us today.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's just Jim Dandy. Did I pronounce your last name right? Millette?
You did. Yep.
Right. Well, look at that. First try. All right. Well, I want you specifically, Jeremy. A lot of the folks out in the audience, they may have heard us mention the name, or they might be brand new, and they're like, what is this silencershop.com all about? How can I possibly, when a silencer is an NFA-regulated item, how can I go online and shop for one? It hurts my brain. I don't understand. Can you help them out? Let them know how they can do that.
Sure, good question. So, unlike certain people would have you to believe, you can't just purchase an NFA item and have it sent directly to your doorstep, right?
What?
Yeah. Sorry to burst the bubble there.
Oh,
right?
Man, that's not what
there is.
That's not what the FBI director said.
Exactly, right? So there is paperwork that's involved. The good news is that that's specifically what we do. We handle all that for you. So I tell people that it's super easy, in the time that I'm going to spend telling you how to do it, you could have already bought one and had the process underway. It's like Amazon. You go on there, you pick out what you want, you pay for it, you get some emails that walk you through the next steps. Within 5 minutes, you're done. Sit back and wait. We'll send the silencer to an FFL near you that you selected. Once it's approved, just go pick it up. It's that simple.
Well, I think that's a lot of the reason that people don't get involved or they don't buy a silencer or suppressor is because they've been told by the guy at the gun shop where they shop that you don't even want to bother with that because there's so much paperwork and they get so deep into your business. And when I sat down with my Class 3 guy many years ago and got my first can, he said, Paul, the truth is, he goes, there's less paperwork to buy a silencer than there is to buy a car, but people go out and buy cars every day. He said it's kind of like a mythology or a scare tactic. Do you believe that that's true? Is there actually less paperwork involved in buying a suppressor than there is a car?
Oh, absolutely. And, speaking of scare tactics, there's a lot of myths out there, and who knows where their origin came from, but, there's a lot of myths that people have built in their head, like, you give up your rights to search and seizure, the cops can break down your door at any time and check this thing, you're going to go to jail if you have one, you get put on some secret government blacklist, and people start watching your house all the time. None of that's true, right?
Yeah, that is something the no-knock search thing. They said, well, if you do that any time, day or night, the police can come to your house and demand entry and search your house. And I'm like what? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You didn't know? No, I didn't know. Thank you for telling me that there, Mr. Gun Show guy. But, yeah, that kind of insanity. And I think a lot of folks don't understand. What do you think the numbers of lawfully owned suppressors, silencers, moderators are in the United States right now? It's got to be pushing millions.
Oh, yeah, it's over 1 million easily. And, the thing is that I tell people all the time, like, that's one of the biggest myths that we fight is the myth that, they can bust down your door and search everything and whatnot, and you give up your rights. But I tell people all the time, I'm like, why are they going to bother with the millions of legally owned suppressors in the United States when they have tons of other things to worry about? That's just a small fraction of the guns in the United States, right? So why are you going to bother with a small minority? It doesn't make sense from a logic standpoint.
You're like, I don't want to get on a list. Like,
Like,
bro,
dude, if you're not on one.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't want to be on a list, so I'm not going to buy a silencer because I don't want to be on a list. Did you ever buy a gun from a gun dealer? Well, yeah. All right, you're on a list. Do you have a concealed carry permit? Yeah. You're on a list. Did you register as a Republican? Yeah. You're on a list. Sorry. Hate to break your heart there. If your biggest fear as an American citizen is being on a list, if you genuinely and truly believe that being on a list is and let's face it, we've seen some evidence that is a thing, right? That people have been targeted. The answer is not to hide and stay off of lists. The answer is to fight back and retake your country. It's like, I don't want to be on a list, so I'm going to hide. Well, how is hiding restoring the republic? How is hiding fixing the country? You're not going to be able to fix the nation or the problems of the nation because you hid. I can't fathom that logic other than that it's extremely selfish logic. It's like, well, I know the rest of the world's going to burn down, but while it's burning, I'm going to hide in my basement.
Yeah. That's one way to look at it for sure, right?
Yeah. So, all right. So here I am. I'm Joe Consumer, and I pop on over to silencershop.com, and I get really super excited, and I find one that I want to buy. I want to buy a 30 caliber can, and I should probably open your website right now so I can just speak intelligently. Not that I haven't been to it before, but you know what I mean. So I'm all jazzed up, and I want to buy a silencer, and I find the one on the website that I like. And I'm like, oh man, this is perfect. This is exactly what I want. Now, where do I go from there? I mean, just click the button and then somebody will contact me, or like for instance, I'm at the site right now and it's a Gemtech. The featured one is Gemtech G5T, and I say, you know what? Bam, I'm sold. I want that one. Now what do I do?
Okay, so there are a few ways to register a silencer, and without getting too deep in the weeds, let me first say that if you look on our website, we have a little section called support up there, and it has a section called how to buy a silencer, which walks you through step by step and explains all of these in a little bit more detail. But basically, you need to know how you want to register it as an individual, a trust, or a corporation. There's pros and cons to each of those. I'll tell you, though, that 95% of people register as a trust just because it makes it easier to purchase, easier for inheritance, and easier for other people to use the silencer without you being present. We sell a trust on our site, but if you just purchase the silencer and check out, you'll get sent an email that asks you to come back to our site. It's got a link, and it walks you through the registration. So it'll ask you, hey, how do you want to file this thing? Do you want to file as an individual trust or corporation? And depending on what you say, then it'll walk you through the next steps, and then bam, 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 you're done. And that's really all there is to it. I know it sounds too simple because it actually is simple.
Well, and that's something that I think a lot of people, if you're listening to me right now and you're like, I'm still not convinced, Paul. Okay, fine. Don't be convinced. But at very least, take the 5 minutes, go to the website, and go over to the support thing and pull up the how to buy, and read it and find out if, and there's a frequently asked questions. It's called top 10 questions. There you go. And we're not going to go through every single one of them, but that is the biggest, I think the biggest problem we have as a community, as a gun culture, is we allow a lot of myth and mythology and rumor to take hold as supposed fact. And we just keep regurgitating the same rumors and myths to each other over and over again. And first it was, 20, 30 years ago, people just stood around the gun shop counters regurgitating the same stupid crap. And at the gun shows, at the end of the tables at the gun shows, if you just buy a 45, you'd only have to fire one time, and everyone in the room would die, and that kind of stuff. Well, now it's the internets, and so we get on chat boards and forums, and we perpetuate the mythology and the misunderstanding via the internet, but it's still out there. And whether forget about silencers for a second. It doesn't matter what it is. Oh, you can't. We just had one where like, oh, you better never, if you carry a gun, don't carry pepper spray because they find out you used your gun and you had pepper spray in your pocket, you're going to go to prison for not using the pepper spray first. Dude, that's such a retarded statement. I don't even know how to deal with it, but it's still out there.
And that's one thing that I was going to say. If you can hear me right now, you have a responsibility to rid the world of stupid.
To rid the world of stupid.
The world of stupid. And the only way you can do that is to be knowledgeable, to have the knowledge. And the way to get the knowledge about silencers, for instance, is go to silencershop.com, check out the support page, just read the how-to. So next time you go to the gun shop and you're talking about silencers, somebody says something stupid, you can say, no, that's not how it works.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I love a smoky gun store as much as the next guy does. But you hit the nail on the head. You walk in to some places and it's the same rhetoric over and over, and the facts aren't present. And it's not like that every place. I mean, there's a lot of good dealers out there, but you're right. I think that is part of the gun culture in a whole. And so that's how I see my job, is to rid the world of those myths and questions,
stupid.
Which is
like
why
Jared
I bring them up.
Yeah. Dude, there's a local, it's not public, it's a members range, but you pay $100 a year, $200 a year. And this range, it's a very typical, the range rules are painted, on the wall, and they start at the ceiling and they go to the floor. And there's like 37 range rules. And like rule number 34 is, no silencers allowed at any time. Now, we live in Mississippi, and it's perfectly legal for you and I and any other, lawful citizen to own a silencer. But they're not allowed on the range. And so, being the froggy guy I am, I grabbed one of the range officers, and I was like, what's the deal with that? Well, what do you mean? That's dangerous. I'm like, excuse me? How is making less noise dangerous? Oh, well, we can't have people thinking that we're training like assassins here. What?
It's like,
wow.
Do you like your hearing?
Yeah,
I like mine.
Yeah,
what?
we were at the range, and like I said, it has range rules posted from top to bottom, and one of them says no 22 rimfire on the rifle range. Well, we're out there shooting a 308 with a silencer on it, and this guy at the end of several seats down keeps looking over there at us, and after about the third shot, he gets over there up and stomps over to us and says, "There's no rimfire allowed on this rifle range." We go, "Yeah, we know. We're shooting 308." He goes, "Let me see." So we showed him the bullet, and he goes, "Well, it's not making any noise." Yeah, it's a silencer.
See that big fat thing on the end of the rifle? It sounds like a
rimfire,
yeah,
but it's not.
That's funny.
So
the stupid stuff that you see at the range.
Oh yeah, it's like you can go sit down over there now, and I know what I'm doing. That's the maddening thing about that. There are occasionally people who really know what the hell they're doing go to public ranges, and those people who are out there are just generating empty brass and making noise and engaging in ballistic masturbation. They can't figure out what you're doing. Why are you doing that? Slow down, you're shooting too fast. You'll never need to shoot that fast in the real world. You need to go away from me now. I actually had Jared, do you remember Dan Giamatti, the guy I used to work with?
Yeah.
And one of the many things I've done as a career is I was a small arms and tactics instructor for the military as a military contractor. We worked full time for the military, and the public range was actually right next door to the military range. And if you know anything about military ranges, you can't just go there and shoot. You have to have a range officer put up the flags. You have to schedule a time. You have to do all that. So even if you're an instructor, you can't just go and shoot whenever you want to, because we wouldn't want our instructors practicing, because that would be wrong. So we would just pop over to the public range right next door and run through drills and do our practice on our own. Well, my buddy Dan just got, at the time, it was. This is, I'm going to date myself because it was the year that the Surefire 556 suppressor was new. It was like that first year that it came out. So he got one, and he was all excited, and he put it on his AR, and so he's over in the bay, the one bay by himself, and here comes the range officer, and he pulls up in his truck, and he stands in. Dan's like, he's just sat there in his truck staring at me. And he gets out. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm practicing." Well, I don't understand why you're doing that. You know what? You don't need to understand. He wasn't trying to tell him that he wasn't his rounds weren't going into the berm, or he was skipping it. No, he was doing things like correctly, but the range safety officer didn't understand. So he was like, I think you need to leave that kind of training or that kind of stuff to the experts. Well, I'm not going to call myself an expert, but I actually do this for a living. This is what I do. I teach military people how to shoot guns for a living. That's what I do. I don't know what else. What else do you have to do to prove expert status to the red hat guy at the range, other than to teach military personnel full time?
You have to win a 3-gun match.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't win a 3-gun match. No.
I thought that you had to carry a card or something that said, "I'm a subject matter expert." But I mean,
do
maybe
they have those? Oh, crap. All right. Simple question here. So somebody out in the audience says, "I live in X state, and I don't know if I'm allowed." How can they easily find out?
Good question. They go to our frequently asked question page, and it tells you. There are currently 41 states where it's legal to own a silencer, and the usual culprits that are left out of that:
California, Illinois.
New York, New Jersey, Hawaii. You get the idea.
Yeah, Illinois. So basically, if you can't own a silencer, you shouldn't be living there anyway. So you're wrong, and you need to fix yourself.
Well, one of the things that we are working on is we work with the American Suppressor Association and the NRA to expand silencer rights across the country. And there have been several states that have come on board and got legislation passed to make them legal since this has been started.
I actually remember when ASA began. It's only been about 5 or 6 years ago.
Exactly, and back then there were 34 states where they were legal, and now there's 41.
And I don't mean to, I'm not trying to jump on your fire, but can you use them to hunt? That's another big thing.
Yes, you can, and that's what the majority of people use them for. Is they use them for just not having to wear hearing protection, or for hunting. And I'm going to get the number wrong, but there's over 35 states where they're legal for hunting in some aspect or another, whether it's predator or full game hunting. I'm in Texas, and I hunt Texas and Oklahoma and Colorado, and so I know the laws in those states. But here in Texas, we can use them for any game animal.
And that just recently changed.
Varmint. 2012.
Yeah, guys. The first time I ever hunted with a suppressor in Texas, I was there, and they're like, "Well, you can shoot hogs with it, but if you're going to shoot whitetail, you have to take it off the gun." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then, just a couple of years later, they said, "Hey, yay!" And that's kind of you think they kind of like, are we giving whitetail what? That's the thing that I could never understand about that, is how a state would say, "Well, you can kill coyotes and hogs and stuff like that quietly, but if you're going to kill a whitetail, you need to be loud."
Yeah, you have to hurt your hearing if you want to hurt a deer. That's the rule.
Okay.
But it's funny because that's what I primarily use my silencer for, is hunting, and so I personally bought my first silencer in 2012 when the laws changed. And I will not hunt without a silencer now. Actually, this past October, I was invited to an elk trip in Colorado, and I said, well, I have to make sure that, the laws are just double check the laws and everything before I can say yes. And this guy's like, wait a second, you're going to turn down a free elk hunt if you can't use a silencer? I said, absolutely. I'm not going to shoot without one. Why would I?
You say, do you know where I work?
So, exactly. So, once you start using them, once you start training with them, once you start hunting with them, it literally gets to the point where you don't want to shoot without them. And then, all of your guns, you start looking at things like raised sights and threaded barrels and thinking, oh, okay, I can buy this silencer for this gun and I can buy this gun for this silencer. And that's really what happens.
Well, and you make an excellent point. I'm essentially the same way. Once I started hunting with the silencer, I kind of had this epiphany, like, why would anyone not do this? Why would you? If you're like, I've been hunting since I was a teenager or what have you, and all the old guys are like, you don't we're covering up your ears because you won't be able to hear the game and stuff, and then they're cracking off 30-06 with naked ears, and now they can't hear, or the opposite, you plug your ears, you put muffs on, and they're like, oh, you can just get the electronic muffs. Okay, in the modern era, we do have electronic muffs. Okay, rock on. Fantastic. But that only protects you. That doesn't protect, A, the people that are around you, or B, and I'm not worried about hurting the hearing of the game, but something that I've experienced, especially, now if you're going to shoot whitetail, you're probably just going to shoot one, and you're going to take your pictures, and you're going to gut it, and you're going to do all that stuff. But if you're shooting predators or varmints or pest animals, you want to shoot a bunch of them. I mean, you want to shoot a bunch of coyotes, a bunch of hogs, a bunch of prairie dogs, a bunch of marmots, whatever. The first time I actually had way back when I had a can. I got one for a 17 HMR. The first year that the HMR came out, or the second year the HMR came out, I guess it was. And if for those of you that don't know, it's the Hornady Magnum rimfire 17 caliber, and brothers and sisters, that is a fantastic groundhog killing gun.
That is my favorite caliber, by the way, besides .308.
Oh yeah, it puts the whomp on groundhogs like nobody's business. And so I thought to myself, I wonder if we could suppress this. So we did, and I would go out. And groundhogs are not like prairie dogs. Prairie dogs are retarded. I don't even know how they stay alive. They're so stupid. But a groundhog is a marmot, and groundhogs are not prairie dogs. Groundhogs get to up to 15 pounds in Ohio and Pennsylvania and so forth. They're big suckers. But they're like other game. They're very wary. They're wary of sights and sounds. And if you pop off one shot, 223 or 25, 22 250. You fire one, you're going to get a groundhog, and the rest of them are gone. They're going down in their burrows for a half an hour or more. Well, I've actually, with the suppressed HMR, shot one, and another one stood up in the field to look around to see what that weird noise was, because it wasn't a shocking boom. It was kind of like this weird crack. And he didn't know what it was, and so I shot him too. But but I've also shot hogs. Now, let's go ahead and talk about this, Jeremy. If I have a rifle, I have a .308, I have a .223, I have a whatever, does a silencer or suppressor completely eliminate 100% of the sound coming out of the gun?
No, it doesn't. And that's one of the things that politicians and game wardens, that's one of the myths that they use to say why they shouldn't be legal for civilians or legal for hunting, is that, it completely eliminates the noise, and we won't be able to tell if poachers are out there taking out the entire herd of whitetail, right? And that's not the case at all. What it does is it drops it down to hearing safe levels. You still have the sonic crack if you're shooting a supersonic bullet. You still have a noise that on full power rifle sounds about like a .22. It's actually slightly quieter so that your ears aren't ringing after you shoot it, but it's still about as loud as a .22 rifle.
Go ahead.
That's loud. That's not stupid quiet. That's not Hollywood quiet, but it is a game changer because it can allow you to, like you said, take out more of those varmints and pests or harvest more game without scaring off everything within 20 miles.
And see that, thank you for bringing that up, because that also is another thing. If you're hunting suppressed, let's say typical whitetail hunt or hog hunter, it doesn't matter what it is, you're in a blind here. And then 300 yards away on the other side of a draw or whatever, there's another guy. And then 400 yards to the south of you, there's another guy. And you're all safe. You're not going to shoot each other. But if I'm in my blind and I crank off a 308 or 30-06 unsuppressed, it's going to startle everything in a half-mile radius, right, or more. I don't know how many times I've been in a blind and just set up and something's slowly creeping in, and I can see it at 100, 200 yards off, and it's slowly kind of working its way towards me. And the guy on the other side of the woods, kablam, kablam, and the thing I'm about to shoot is gone.
Yep.
I've shot hogs, put a hog down, and they scatter because Jimmy, our hog friend, just flipped over and did the death squeal and is now gone. But I've shot hogs with suppressed rifles, sat in the blind, sipped some water, took some deep breaths, and 15 minutes later, they come back out of the woods because they really want the corn or the acorns or whatever. They run to the woods. They're not really sure what happened and where that sound came from. And then they come back. It's just, you have to see it in the field, really. I think, Jeremy, a lot of people are like, why are you saying that? But I don't know if I believe you. But
yeah, for the people that are skeptical, let me say this right here. There is a really good YouTube channel, if you want to check this out in person, Lone Star Boars. He is a shooter for us. We send him silencers to use on hogs because hogs in Texas are a real problem.
Amen, brother.
So
but they're a blessing too.
If you go to his YouTube channel, Lone Star Boars, and you check him out, you can watch him come across sounders of hogs, and you can see how they react to being shot at with a silencer. And the interesting thing is, hogs are extremely skittish, as you know, but just like you said, they run a ways and they stop. And, I've been on hunts with him and watched him take out 15 or 20 pigs out of one sounder just because he's able to keep on them and keep the pressure up. And they don't know what's going on. They don't know where the sound's coming from. They don't know how to react. They don't know what to do. So if you have questions about that, like how they're going to react, that's a good thing to check out.
Yeah, they don't know. That's the cool thing is they don't know where the shot's coming from. They heard something and it startled them, and then they're kind of like, I don't know which direction to run in. Oh, bro, I'm actually there right now while we're talking, and he's got some helo footage. Jared and I went to a helicopter hog hunting adventure in Texas a couple of years ago, and it was literally the most fun you can have with your clothes on. Oh. Just phenomenal. I got a question. Does your Lone Star guy, does he have helicopters, or does he arrange helicopters, or?
He does. Yeah. So if you guys want to go on a Texas hog hunt too, I'm sure that we can arrange something there as well.
That is a fantastic idea that just spawned this very second in my fertile little brain.
Well, the great thing is that what we can do is we can bring you guys down here, put a bunch of different silencers in your hands, and let you play with a bunch of different ones, and see what they're all about.
That was the one thing we didn't have when we did our hunt. The guns that we had were set up by the helicopter company, by the guide company, and they had catch bags on them and so forth. But we didn't have any silencers. We had no cans. Oh,
it's like you're flying in a helicopter.
Yeah, it wasn't that huge of a deal, but my thought was, it probably would have been, I don't know, better if we would have been able to use cans. I had them, but like I said, the guns were set up by the guy. There was his guns, and that was one of the rules: is you use our guns when you fly in our birds. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool.
Don't you know? Haven't you played Call of Duty when you put a silencer on the end of your gun and it reduces your range?
Oh, geez, Louise.
That's a good myth.
That's
a good myth. I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you, Jared, because all the Call of Duty guys are like, yeah, but we're not playing. It reduces the damage and the range of your gun.
Yeah, so that's a great myth. I'm glad you brought that up. So the two biggest questions, too, are how does this affect my accuracy, and what does it do to the velocity? So contrary to popular belief, your velocity will either A, stay the same, or B, increase, because you have more time for the gas to be behind the bullet pushing it. It's called free bore boost. And, we've seen gains up to 50 or 100 feet per second. As far as accuracy, a good silencer, like 99% of the ones we sell, will shrink your group size. So there you go. I can take a 1 MOA rifle, and it'll shoot under 1 MOA with a silencer, guaranteed.
I would say most people are like, oh, what's that going to do to my accuracy? I'm like, dude, that gun is way more accurate than you will ever be.
Yeah,
so.
It's like, well, first of all, let's get real. It's like that gun, if a robot were to shoot that gun, he would outshoot you. Okay, that gun is more accurate than you are. There's probably now, there are 1% of people in the world that need a better gun because they've outlived the accuracy of the gun. Most people are like, you want to worry about your accuracy? Practice more. There you go. Well, brother, I don't want to belabor the point. I don't want to keep you on too long because I know that you need to sell silencers.
I've got a couple questions from the listeners.
Jared, go ahead.
If he's got a minute, you got a minute, Jeremy?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
Let's hear 'em.
I've got one here. It says, is there any progress on the hearing protection bill?
Okay, good question. For those that don't know, the hearing protection bill is an American Suppressor Association sponsored bill that seeks to essentially deregulate silencers from the NFA to where you wouldn't have to go through the paperwork process and whatnot. After January, when the president made his speech about silencers and what he wants to do to further regulate them, I don't think that we're going to see any movement on the Hearing Protection Act under the current administration. Now, this is something that us, Silencer Shop, and the ASA are working toward, but realistically, I think that it'll happen probably about 5 to 8 years from now, given the current political climate.
Right.
Could be sooner, but that's my best crystal ball guess.
Next question I got: when shooting suppressed, but with supersonic ammo, is hearing protection still needed, or is that caliber dependent?
It is a little bit caliber dependent, but I tell you that I can take a 50 Beowulf, a 458 SOCOM, a 338 Lapua, 3 in a Win Mag, 308. You kind of get in the picture.
Right.
And I can make that quieter than a 22 rifle, under 140 decibels. So it's not, hearing protection isn't needed. Now, I say that with a caveat. If you feel pain in your ears, or you think that it's needed, or your ears ring at all, then you absolutely need to wear hearing protection. And another thing is, on semi-automatic rifles, the sound of the action and the gas ejection and whatnot can also add to the noise level coming out of the end of the rifle itself. So in those instances, you might need to wear hearing protection.
Cool. Good answer.
Yeah, and especially also with the supersonic crack, if you're shooting under range cover, the noise is going to bounce back down onto you. Or if you're shooting indoors, the noise is going to be amplified by the walls and the ceiling and the floor and all that stuff too. So, but generally, you know who did a real good job with that is actually Surefire when they came out with those Sonic Defender plugs. You just pop those Sonic Defender plugs in, and and you shoot your 5.56 AR, bam, 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 and it's those plugs are enough to protect your ears from the supersonic crackage.
All right, next question.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
The crack isn't really as loud as people think it is compared to the actual boom of the silencer. That's why we can still harvest game and still have that sonic crack.
Right.
So, yep. Go ahead.
All right, next question. Is there any advantage to suppressing a 5.56 with a 5.56 can rather than a 30 cal can?
Absolutely. This is a very, very common question. So a 30 caliber silencer can obviously be used on 308 and 5.56. What you run into is a question of efficiency versus options, right? So if I have a 30 caliber silencer, I put it on my 5.56. Typically, it'll be louder than a dedicated 5.56 silencer. But what it will be, 95% of the time is longer and heavier. So depending on how you want to use the silencer for what application, you may choose to go one way or another. Example, the quietest 308 silencer on the market is 9 inches long and weighs 21 ounces. Okay, the quietest 5.56 silencer on the market is 6 inches long and weighs 14 ounces. So, take your pick, right? You can have a little bit longer and heavier, but have the versatility, or you can have shorter and lighter, caliber specific.
Well, that's something that we've talked about with our fans. People, be like, well, what's the first can I should buy, or I can only afford one can, or what have you. And I think suppressors are like Lay's potato chips. You think you're going to eat just one, and then you end up buying more. But I'll tell them, well, first of all, if you have a limited budget, but you want to get into the game, just buy a 22. Get a 22 silencer, yep. And you can put it on a pistol or a rifle, and you can enjoy yourself. You can take your little kids out.
You just answered the next question.
Oh, is that? I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, I didn't know I was answering the next question. But
that's fine.
Or, if you can only afford one centerfire rifle can, get a 30 caliber can. Like we've got the. You guys sell AAC cans or not?
We do.
Okay.
Yep, we do.
We've got the AAC. It's a Cyclone. No, it's the whatever 762. Blah blah blah.
SDN 6.
Yes, that's it. So I can put that on a 5.56, a 308. I can put it on a 300 blackout. I can put it on a 6.8, 6.8 SBC. I can put it on whatever, anything between 22 and 30 caliber. So if it's only one, if you're only going to buy one, do that and have versatility. But then again, some people be like, well, I have a really slicked up varmint rifle for 223 varmint rifle. All right, great. Get a 5.56 can and leave it on there and drive on.
Yeah, and what we're seeing more and more is that people want to be able to buy one silencer to cover everything. Now, what they don't realize is that's like saying I'm going to buy only one gun ever, and it's going to do everything also. But, it's a market trend, right? And so recently there's a new silencer on the market, the Griffin Armament Optimus, and it can work on 300 Win Mag all the way down to 22 and 9mm handguns. What's neat about it is that it's modular, so you can change the lengths of it. You can take it apart for cleaning, and you can even change the end caps out based on your caliber. So if someone's looking saying, hey, look, I want one silencer to try to cover as many bases as possible, that one silencer does everything but 45.
Wow.
There you go. And that is another one that people, if you're going to do crazy stuff, I don't say crazy stuff, but if you're really going to get crazy and shoot 300 Win Mag, 338 Lapua, you need more than just your normal 300 blackout can, because that's a lot of gas. Is that correct? You have dedicated cans for big stuff like that.
Yeah, so the diameter increases, the length increases. The larger the bullet is, the more gas there is, so the larger volume of silencer you need to be able to contain that gas.
Oh, I got Jared, ask one more question, and Then I'll shut my mouth.
I've got two more that are kind of good.
Okay, do it.
All right. First one are 12-gauge suppressors, only good for slugs, buckshot, or any shot.
There's currently one 12-gauge silencer on the market. Other people are working on them, but I don't think they've come to market yet. That's the Silencer Co. Salvo. To answer the question, it can work on anything with a wad, slug, buck, or birdshot. So if it's got a wad behind it, it works.
There you go. Get one with a wad.
Yep.
Next question, wet or dry, and why?
This is another good question. So when people talk about making a silencer wet, what they're saying is they're adding a medium to the silencer, such as water or wire pulling gel,
or
to the silencer baffles to help decrease the sound level. Keep in mind, though, that you only ever want to do this on rimfire or pistol silencers. If you do it on a rifle silencer, it will blow up. So don't do this. But for rimfire and pistol, we're talking about adding about 5 cc's of water and basically just swirling around and coating the baffles. This will decrease the first round pop. The first shot fired out of the silencer will be a little bit quieter in that shooting string, and it'll also lower the volume a few decibels across the board. However, what it does do is it makes it to where you absolutely have to clean your silencer afterwards, and it is messy and creates a lot of splatter on the shooter. So typically people will try it once and then they'll never do it again.
Right. And then this is kind of an extension off of that. What kind of maintenance should be performed, if any?
So on centerfire rifle silencers, there is no maintenance that is required. All that goes in there is carbon. As you shoot, carbon builds up, but the heat builds up and the carbon burns off and gets blown out the end. On pistol and rimfire, a lot of people shoot lead or cast lead bullets through that, so you need to be able to take them apart and clean them and remove that lead. Otherwise, you wind up with a giant paperweight. That's also why we don't recommend that people shoot 22 through their sealed centerfire rifle silencers, because you cannot remove the lead from them.
Right. Yeah, that is a great point. A lot of folks out there that's like, well, how come they make the 22 and the pistol cans? How come you can take those apart, but the rifle cans, they don't make any that you can take apart and clean? For a reason. No, but that's the reason, because the your 5.56, 308, it's hot. It's a lot of hot gas going through there. But everybody knows that everybody who shoots a 22 knows that 22 is dirty. It just is.
Right.
Shooting 22s, it's dirty stuff. And depending on the manufacturer, some of it's dirtier than others. Yes, I'm talking to you, Remington Thunderbolt ammo, the dirtiest. I think they load it. They go behind the factory and they scrape up dirt, and that's what they use for powder. But what we've done, and I'll go ahead and tell you, I don't know if we actually did a thing about, we have a 2 AAC suppressors, a 9mm, I'm a jerk, but the 9mm, I can't remember the name of it. Oh, it's Tyrant. The Tyrant, yeah. When you can change out the thread pitch, and then another AAC, a little mini can. And both of them, we've disassembled them. Now, what we did was we took them apart, and I had when the 22 can was brand new, we took it apart and we frog lubed the baffles and put them back together so that they would be easier to clean and get all the funk and nastiness off. But that's just our own personal preference. And we've actually had great success with them. We've taken them out and shot them a bunch. I know a lot of guys that with the 22 cans, they shoot them so much and they decide, oh, it's been a year, I should clean this thing. And they essentially have to take a mallet and beat the baffles out of them because they're so funked up in there.
Yeah, and that's a good question. How often should you clean them? And the answer is it depends really on what kind of ammo you're shooting and how dirty the ammo is. But about every 500 rounds is a typical maintenance schedule. But if you shoot plated ammo through a 22, you can actually extend that out to like 1,000 or 1,500 rounds. For pistol, if you don't shoot lead through it, if you're only shooting jacketed bullets, then 1,000 rounds plus should be the maintenance schedule.
Well, a lot of guys that shoot 22s, they want to shoot the really quiet stuff. So
Sure.
They shoot
which is typically lead.
the subsonic target ammo, which is really super quiet, but it's also dirty. All right, Jared, are we? We need to go ahead and put the.
Yeah, that is. We are out of questions.
We are out of questions.
Well, actually, we have more, but we're out of time.
And we're out of time. Jeremy, thank you very much for joining us today. I truly appreciate it. I think that everybody in the audience is going to get a serious lesson, and you should take at least one nugget out of this.
Yeah, their minds are blown.
All right, so did you want any parting words for the Student of the Gun audience?
Guys, thanks for having me on. It's been great. If anybody has any questions, you know where to reach us, silencershop.com. Feel free to shoot us an email, give us a call. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and we're on numerous forums. So there you go.
All right, that was Jeremy from silencershop.com. So you've got your marching orders there. And Jared, I think we just need to go ahead and put the wraps on this one. What do you say? I'm looking at the clock on the wall. All right, thank you not only to everybody else, but especially to our friends at Crossbreed Holsters. If you're not carrying a gun, you're wrong. But if you want to carry a gun comfortably all day long, go to crossbreedholsters.com. This weekend, when I went to Mardi Gras, I was in New Orleans, greater New Orleans area all day. We left the house around 10. We got home at 2 a.m., and I wore my gun in a Crossbreed Super Tuck that whole entire time very comfortably. Didn't bother me at all. All right, cats and kittens, we'll be back with you on Monday. And for the grad program people, we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Remember, you are a beginner once, but you should indeed be a student for life.
If you haven't yet, remember, go to studentofthegun.com, click on the orange button that says 7 training tips that could save your life. Dad and I produced a 7-video series that you will get after you sign up for that. It is 7 training tips that could save your life. And I want you to have that because I care about you. And if you want to be a part of the grad program tomorrow, go to studentofthegunradio.com, click on Become a Member, and you can get a 30-day trial for a measly $1. So go to studentofthegunradio.com.